So back in 2020, I, Steven Shinder, started a podcast called Delayed Replay, recapping and reviewing the latest films. However, it got broadcast into an alternate universe, where those films got delayed and came out differently from how I was describing them. Because of how me and my guests had been describing the films, people in that other universe were saying that this was all an improvised comedy podcast, which, listening back, I can totally get why they believe that. A lot of weird stuff happened in that first year, and I even met my other self from that other universe, who pops in from time to time, for better or worse. And now, in the year 2023, this podcast continues, still recapping and reviewing movies and sometimes some other things that got delayed or cancelled in that other universe. A new episode Saturdays every other week, unless I decide otherwise for some special reason or whatever. You are listening to Delayed Replay, Season 4.
Hey everyone, just a heads up, after the recap of Furiosa, there will be a review of Barbie, the new movie. It'll start with non-spoilers and then go into spoilers. So the review for that starts 40 minutes, maybe a little less into this. I'll put the timestamps in the show notes. So yeah, enjoy this episode about Furiosa.
Hello, listeners. Welcome to another episode of Delayed Replay, that podcast where we recap and review movies that got delayed in that other universe but came out on time in our universe. I'm your host, as always, Steven Shinder, and joining me to talk about Furiosa, the Mad Max standalone prequel thing that came out on June 23rd, around there, like around my mom's birthday, funny enough. It is Mr. Multiverse. How are you feeling right now, sir?
I am feeling in the moment.
Nice. Yeah, that's always good, because if you're ever out of the moment, it's like you're outside of space and time, and it's like you don't know where you're at, you know?
Yeah, that's how you end up in the back rooms.
Yeah.
I just made that reference. Is back rooms still relevant on the internet?
I honestly don't know.
Someone in your comments or whatever are gonna go, well, actually, how you get into the back rooms is like you clip through the universe or something. I don't care. Shut up.
Yeah, I mean, these days it's all about threads, right? Have you heard about threads?
No, I'm old.
Oh, yeah, Threads is basically Meta's answer to Twitter. You know, another app trying to be like Twitter, but with less of the problems. I'm still not sure what to think of the app.
Yeah. Oh, that's what that is. I saw like a bunch of memes, and I'm like, what is this Threads thing? And it, like, why is it saying it's killing Twitter?
Yeah.
Now I get it. Okay. I've never used Twitter or any of the others, like Mastodon or something.
Yeah, and there's also Blue Sky, not to be confused with the studio that made Ice Age. So yeah, it's a whole thing.
Here's my question, and I know we're going on a bit of a tangent, but like,
no, yeah, that's fine.
You need these little things that just give blurbs about your thoughts on something. It's like basically saying, here, give your thoughts on this politically charged question that may take years to answer and analyze, and tell us now in under 5 minutes and under 500 characters, so we can tell you to get with a chainsaw.
Well, I mean, so far, like, what little I've seen of Threads, personally on my feed, I haven't seen much political stuff, but I'm wondering if that's just because of how relatively new it is. I'm kind of waiting to see, like, how much time it'll take for it to become, I don't know, I'm kind of feeling it out, seeing if it does become as close to problematic as, like, other sites become, so I guess we'll see, and I may or may not jump ship. I'm kind of feeling it out, if that makes sense.
You're basically pulling a Sweden and being the neutral party.
Sure.
All right, cool. All right, so what were we doing? Oh yeah, Furiosa.
Oh yeah, so to begin, what are your experiences with the Mad Max movies, and then I'll briefly go over mine.
I absolutely love the movies. I think they're some of the. I think they're. So when people say like major franchises, it kind of bothers me that Mad Max isn't brought in, because George Miller, I think, is a very passionate as well as very underrated director. I mean, the dude went from Mad Max to Happy Feet. Figure that out. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, for those who don't know, he made the tap dancing penguin movie. The same guy who would witness me.
Yeah, I mean, what's funny is I actually enjoyed Happy Feet and its sequel back in the day. My first exposure to George Miller was actually the Babe movies, with the pig, and I loved especially the first one.
Yeah, that's the other thing. You made Babe too. But no, Mad Max is I think they're very beautiful, very action as well as art piece movies. And it's always an aesthetic that people try to emulate but just can't seem to get. My personal favorite, and I know this is kind of generic, but it is The Road Warrior. It's such a good movie.
Yeah, the second one.
Always, it's weird too because in my mind I always teeter between Fury Road and The Road Warrior as my favorite Mad Max films.
Yeah, for me, so I remember watching the first two on TV, one of the 300 something channels, back in the early 2010s, and I think it was on one of those channels. But anyway, I kind of wasn't connecting with them, but a few years later, like in 2016 or something, I tried rewatching them, and I was still not really connecting with them. I was kind of bored, to be honest, but then I watched the third one, Beyond Thunderdome, and I know that's generally considered the worst one of that original trilogy or whatever, but I was paying more attention to the stuff going on. The pacing felt better for me. And then Fury Road, I really, really liked, even though there is that thing of oh, they go one direction and then go back the same direction, which is kind of silly, but I thought it was a really well made film, that fourth one.
Yeah. So, I'm curious, what did you think of this particular movie? Since you had such a positive view on Fury Road, did this help or taint your view?
So when Furiosa was announced, I was under the impression that it would be a sequel, and I thought Charlize Theron is a great actress. She's funny enough, the first thing I ever saw her in was the trailer for Mighty Joe Young, the 1998 version, which would be on the Lion King 2 VHS. But
not the movie, the trailer.
Right, yeah, and I just recently, within these last couple months, finally got around to seeing the movie. But yeah, I thought she did a great job as Furiosa, so I was looking forward to seeing more of her in that role. And then they announced that this would be a prequel, and I was like, wait, what? But then they said it would be Anya Taylor-Joy, and I thought she did a good job in The Menu, and I was a little bit less excited to go into this one, but I was still willing to give it its fair shake. What about you?
I'm like you. I thought it was going to be a sequel or a spin-off film. And I think that was the original idea at first, that was going to be what it was going to be, starring Charlize Theron. But I read somewhere that it got changed midway through to be a prequel film. And at first I was like, no, that's disappointing. And then they announced all the actors coming into the film. I was like, okay, this is a lot better. And George Miller is back on. So I had a lot more hope for it.
Yeah, they announced Chris Hemsworth, and it's oh, whoa, he's in this movie? So, also, side note, I preferred Tom Hardy in the Mad Max role. I forgot to mention that earlier, because, Mel Gibson is big yikes, but I think even in an acting perspective, I feel Tom Hardy, for whatever reason, I was more interested in seeing his take on that role, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But getting back to Furiosa, so we start with her in the green place of many mothers. They give us a good look at this place and what it was like, but then she gets taken into the biker horde, which is led by Lord Dementis. So what'd you think of this opening sequence?
I think it's a great way to kind of show the green place what it was beforehand, and it's kind of somber too because when you look at the landscape, it's green, but like you do see like craters from like missiles falling, and you do see like tanks overgrown. Um, you do see like it's kind of haunting that something beautiful came out of just this carnage, and yeah, I liked it. I think getting to see what they were trying to get to in Fury Road it does show that, oh, now I see why they were so gung-ho about it, because it's beautiful in its own, like, twisted way. But then when, Lord Dementus and his crew show up, it's a massacre.
Yeah, it gets really violent here. And, since Furiosa wants to like keep a memory of this place, she keeps on having to hide this vase that has a plant from this place. It looked like a succulent, but I was never quite sure what it was. I feel like the camera was very often out of focus whenever it showed the plant, and I don't know if that was intentional, so it could be whatever you want it to be, but it kind of annoyed me, not gonna lie.
Yeah, I will say that having Chris Hemsworth as the villain, Lord Dementus, like it's kind of a nice change for him,
Yeah, like there is a little nod to his role as Thor where he picks up a hammer and like it's a sledgehammer, but he uses it more violently than you'd expect. Like he bludgeons someone's head. It's basically like playing a video game, like he's very violent with it. And it's like, whoa, this is what the Edge Lords want Thor to be,
I'm gonna say it, and this is gonna be weird. I would not be opposed, and I never thought I'd say this, but I wouldn't be opposed to Chris Hemsworth playing Lobo in the new DC Universe movies.
Oh, like instead of Jason Momoa?
Yeah, because for some reason, like I was watching him as Dementus, and I'm like, dude, he's just Lobo.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And I was like, dude, grow your hair out more, dye it black, and put some makeup on. I would actually not be opposed to it.
Yeah, like there's only been like one live action Lobo so far, the one who was in that Krypton TV show. It was like a Scottish actor, and I thought he was alright, but I feel like they could have gone further with the character, I guess. So Chris Hemsworth as Lobo would be very interesting. James Gunn, hope you're listening.
Oh yeah, totally. A gun, please.
Yeah.
What I also like about the villain of Lord Dementus is that there's kind of like, while he does like this sick, just brutal things, and it's nice to see. Again, Hemsworth really no pun intended, kills it as a villain. Like I think that's kind of neat that like he gets to be like shown that he's not just the love interest or the pretty boy superhero. Here he gets to be, I'm going to just destroy you as a human being, both like with my hammer and also my words, because he just one scene cuts this poor woman down to the point where she just blows her own brains out, and I'm like, holy crap.
Yeah, and I think to hammer home, pun intended, that this isn't Thor, they make sure to not give him any shirtless scenes in this one, which is something I didn't really think about until someone like pointed it out to me afterward, and I'm like, oh yeah, he didn't have any shirtless scenes.
Yeah.
Some of the other characters, there's someone called the Organic Mechanic, played by Angus Sampson. And the reason that he's called the Organic Mechanic is that he uses like organs and bones to create these vehicles. It feels very much Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Did you kind of get those vibes?
I was thinking more Hellraiser.
Oh yeah, that too.
It is very gross. I'm like, how much? Like, if this is the R-rated version, I want to see the uncut version.
Right. I forget, did you ever see the new Hellraiser?
I did. I actually liked it.
Oh, I thought it was okay, but I'm also not a Hellraiser super fan, but I do think it's the better of the sequels post Hellraiser 2, which I think is the general consensus anyway.
Yeah, I think it is. Well, I personally like Hellraiser 3 because it's just so stupid. I love it. So of the sequels, past 3 for me, it's definitely like one of the best. And I watched this with my girlfriend, who is a Hellraiser super fan, and she absolutely adored it.
Okay.
So I was like, oh yeah, we're doing Furiosa. We're not doing Hellraiser.
Yeah, well, I mean, they are raising hell in this movie, so it's kind of related.
It is kind of funny because one of Dementus's weapons is like a chain with a hook at the end, and that also make me think of Lobo, but you could see the Hellraiser connection.
Right, yeah. And we also have Nathan Jones as Rictus Erectus, who got his nickname because he loves eating bananas, which is such a strange trait for a character in this sort of gang to have. But he even, like, when they're driving around, he even does a thing like throwing a banana peel to make other vehicles slip and crash, which felt very Mario Kart to me. And I admit that kind of took me out of the movie for a moment.
Yeah, it did. It felt like, what the hell is this? Like, but then there's another scene where Rictus is tosses a banana, and it's actually like an explosive, and it just blows up another car.
Yeah, that was actually really cool.
I also like how Rictus is treated like the envoy for his father, and he's like, because they say like Dementus is like the up and coming, like I'm in your father's land and I'm here to take it for myself, because like Dementus has this whole game of I'm done with the whole nomadic life. I want to be a conqueror, because he's like obsessed with like Genghis Khan and Vlad the Impaler, and he's like, all of them had land. They didn't stay. Like they didn't wander. They were conquerors, and it's high time. And he even like points out, like, I've traveled from one end to the other, and you know what I've seen? The ocean. I realize that we're on one big island. So yeah, this basically confirms this is what's left of Australia.
Yeah, which is something I always assumed anyway, but it's nice to get that on-screen confirmation, you know?
Yeah. I do like that Furiosa, she does have agency in this movie, don't get me wrong. We have talked a lot about Dementus because he is an interesting villain. But Furiosa has some great scenes too, like when she how she kills the organic mechanic and then puts his head on one of the bikes he makes. I also especially love that the head, like she puts it over the head over the headlight, and it flashes, so it's like, oh, I get it, headlight.
Yeah.
This is a very gory movie. Like, this is the goriest I've seen of a Mad Max film.
Yeah, like it almost feels like a daylight horror movie, you know? Like it's in the desert and it's very sunny, but you still get like all this gore and these bone aesthetic choices, and it's I don't know, maybe it's because I'm a Texas Chainsaw fan, but I was really digging the visual aesthetic of this one.
Absolutely. I would not be opposed to Miller doing a Texas Chainsaw movie.
Oh, that would actually be probably good. I mean, the bar is so low, so like, like why not? You might as well.
I mean, like, I think he's the closest who would get Hooper's aesthetic, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we are probably getting ahead of ourselves. Like, should probably save it for like the Texas Chainsaw Requalizer episode, you know?
Oh yeah, shameless plug. That's Requalizers is my Patreon exclusive show where I have guest stars, mainly Steven, do and talk about like requel movie ideas. And Texas Chainsaw is one we've been meaning to get around to.
Yeah, I mean, August of this year is 50 years after when the original movie was set, so there's that. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge.
Oh yeah, totally. You know, that's perfect. Anywho.
Yeah, we also have Daniel Weber as Warboy. What'd you think of that character?
I thought he was kind of a neat character in how he connects with Furiosa, in that he's not like, he is Warboy, but there's like a soft side to him where he's like, I'm called Warboy as like kind of a joke because like I hate violence, but I'll do it.
Yeah, I thought that was a neat touch, because when characters have names like that, you expect them to either either the name fits them really well or they're trying too hard to be like that name, sort of trying to be cool like that. But no, this is like, oh, he does it reluctantly and it's sort of thrust upon him and he doesn't like it very much.
Yeah. I personally really like that, and how he connects with Furiosa and like kind of confides in her. Like he's kind of treated like the joke to Dementus. So it's kind of nice that he gets to him and Furiosa have like those bonding moments. But at the same time, you're like, you still helped in massacring everyone in her home, dude.
Yeah. Like, there are some very interesting conversations like that. And, like, getting back to Furiosa herself, like, after seeing this movie, does it feel believable that Anya Taylor-Joy grows up to be Charlize Theron?
Anya Taylor-Joy is a great actress. She's a fantastic actress, but for some reason the whole film I'm like, you're really good, but I just can't see you growing up to be Charlize Theron.
Yeah, I was having that disconnect as well.
I think the reason is because like they make her a little too meek for too long. It's not until the third act where you get to see that Furiosa.
Yeah, and they do try to, like, sort of connect by, connect the two portrayals by showing how she lost her arm, doing the thing where the prequel has to explain the thing. Like, what'd you think of that scene where she loses her arm?
Oh, yeah. It's a brutal scene where she's standing up to Dementus and like trying to fight him, and he's just like, oh, so we're gonna do this now. We're gonna be tough now. We're gonna be the last child of the green place fighting for her home. I almost respect that. And then he just takes a machete, just lobs off her arm and goes almost.
It feels like such a prequel thing because it explains maybe too much, but I'll take it over how Fury's eye scar is explained in Captain Marvel,
Yeah, I don't need a fun fact, film people. I don't need every prequel movie to explain everything.
Yeah, throwback to when X-Men Apocalypse explained why Professor X is bald.
Yeah, the only one where I felt like it was needed, where you need to explain everything, was the 2011 Thing prequel.
Oh yeah, because it's like set right before.
Yeah, that's the only time I'm like, okay, now you could. It's okay. You can explain everything.
Yeah, I remember liking that one, but then when I rewatched it within the past year, maybe it was a year ago, the CGI did not hold up very well. Like, I think it would have looked better if and I know this is like a cliche old man film person thing to say, but like more practical effects and it would have held up better visually, that prequel.
They did shoot scenes of practical effects done by Stan Winston Studios. But the problem is that the studio, Universal, was like, they jumped the timetable to premiere the movie, so they're just like, let's just do CGI because this is taking too long, and it was worse off for it.
Oh damn, I didn't even know that. That explains so much.
It does, like, it hurts even more when you know they did scenes of practical effects, and then they just got canned.
Damn. Yeah, devastating. So what were some of the other action sequences in Furiosa that you that sort of caught your attention?
Well, the opening siege of the Green Place was probably one of the most brutal invasions, but you do see that the mothers like fight back and kill a lot of the gang. We'll talk about this more, but Junkie XL's music in here, oh, so good. I was afraid he was starting to lack because like his soundtrack for Godzilla vs. Kong was and I was like, are you just one note, Mr. XL? Because I didn't like all of his music for Batman v Superman, and Godzilla vs. Kong was just kind of weak. So I was afraid when he was coming back, I was like, are you just one note? And by one note,
Yeah, I thought his music for Zack Snyder's Justice League was pretty good, at least.
I think it's good. I don't think it's great. I still think his best work is Fury Road, and thankfully it's like he realized, oh yeah, I'm on a Mad Max film. Better give my fucking A game.
Yeah, like I think the music was the biggest highlight for me with Furiosa. Like even when this I was sort of scratching my head at certain things in the story, like the music just always excelled.
You're funny.
Wait, what? Why? What'd I do?
You said excelled.
Can you explain that to me? This might be unintentional.
Junkie XL.
Oh, oh my gosh.
How do you didn't even realize it?
No, yeah, I totally like okay. Yeah, those are some of the best times when you make a pun and don't realize it and you're like, "Oh shit, it actually works."
Uh, so
Yeah, so Junkie XL said it's Excel in time and excelled all over the place. Yeah.
yeah. Is that still a funny meme? I don't know.
It's probably not funny anymore, but people still do it. I don't know.
But yeah, the another scene was the battle between Rictus and his crew taking on Dementis's in a road race. That scene was very intense. I love the tracking shot of when there's this huge crash and it's just one. I really hope this was one take because it looked like one take of just this huge crash and you're just going through like cars as the crash is going on.
Yeah, it looked really amazing. Like the effects and like there was never a sequence where I was like, this does not look real at all. So like that's another positive that this movie had going for it.
Totally. There's even like some good, if you want to talk about action scenes, there's good like off-car fight scenes, like when that final fight between Furiosa and where she teams up with Rictus because Rictus throughout the film is like trying to convince her to be like, you can join, my father in his kingdom and you will be safe. You'll have like water and stuff. And he's like really hyping it up. But yeah, when the two of them team up to take on Dementis, it's a pretty brutal final fight.
Yeah, like they even use swords in this fight, which is something you don't really or I don't really picture automatically when I think of like post-apocalyptic genre. So,
It's almost like in the armor that Furiosa wears is almost like a Valkyrie. I think that's what Miller was trying to do.
oh yeah, like Valkyrie from Thor movies.
More like Valkyrie from like actual Greek mythology, but
No,
whatever.
no, yeah. But yeah, this fight was really cool. The music was on point. Like there were lots of drums and like some really cool themes. Like the team up, you know, Captain Dementis for a while was actually really able to hold his own against these two, really cementing how threatening as a villain he is, like before we sort of see the end of this story.
There's just this level of sheer brutality, and again, like had Furiosa been this kind of more the Furiosa we know, I feel like I would have been more okay with Anya, who does give her all. Don't get me wrong. But here it's just like I feel like you should be more aggressive in this situation.
Yeah, I almost kind of wish we could have gotten this movie before Fury Road, but then maybe some things would have been different. I don't know. But anyway, what'd you think of the end of this fight and how it sort of sets up the future as we see it in Fury Road?
I think the fight was pretty good. It does feel like a little mean spirited at the end, where it's like it feels like a total fu when it's revealed that she and the other, like she's been tricked by Erectus to be another just slave girl for his dad.
Since this takes place before Fury Road, it's like there's a certain trajectory it has to go, and you can't have like a complete victory since we know what the later victory actually is. So again, I wish that there was a way we could have had this before, like come out before Fury Road, but then I don't know like how high the audience turnout would have been if it was about this character people had never heard of before.
Yeah. Plus, like it would be kind of fun though to reveal, oh, it's a Mad Max movie all along.
Oh yeah, like a stealth prequel type of thing, yeah.
Yeah, like so far the only one who's done. I feel like the only one that's done that right was Split.
Yeah, like what's kind of unfortunate though is how because of Glass and the marketing for that, that twist for Split is kind of like not even a secret anymore. So, yeah, like I haven't even seen Split or Glass yet because I've been meaning to, but I also thought Unbreakable was kind of boring. But I do intend to watch Split at some point. But yeah, like it wasn't until my friends Dylan and Keon, when they talked about that trilogy on their podcast Triple Play, I listened to that episode like a month ago or something, and they mentioned that it's a twist, that it's a stealthily connected to these other movies, and it didn't even occur to me that that's a twist because I the last few years I've grown so used to like the fact knowing that it's connected to those movies, you know?
I think that's the thing, is that it's a yeah, the audience turnout I think would have been I think, I hate to say it, but honestly, I feel like it wouldn't have been as great. I feel like, every dude bro would have been like, oh, it's another female led character, and it's gonna bomb, and I'm gonna make my video with a red eye flashing from my person, and like Hollywood is dying or something. I hate those people, if you haven't noticed.
Yeah, and one of the YouTubers I follow, a Star Wars YouTuber named Hello Greedo, he points out how ridiculous that stuff is, and he made a video where I think the thumbnail says, "If you put red eyes and something angry, you'll get clicks." So pointing fun at like those stupid dude bros who do that.
So I feel like it would have. I'm not saying it would have suffered because of them. I'm just saying, like, actually, I'm not saying it would have suffered at all. I just feel like the problem with today is that it's IP. The market is very IP driven. So I feel like you'd have to say this is in the Mad Max universe during promotion if you put this before Fury Road.
Yeah, like the trailers for this kept saying from the world of Mad Max comes Furiosa. And then like people on the internet kept commenting, "Oh wow, this new Fast and Furious looks great." So really stupid.
I hate people. I really do. Well, I think we've covered everything, man.
Yeah, so what are your final thoughts on Furiosa, and what's your score out of 10, and do you have measurement for that score?
Well, I will say Anya Taylor-Joy isn't convincing as a Furiosa I would watch. I still watch this movie. I think she does care. I think she's still great on her own. I think that this movie has some great set pieces. This makes me feel like I'm back in the Mad Max universe. The music is great. Does it lag in the second act? Just a wee bit, but it kicks right back in. All in all, like 8 banana peels out of 10.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go slightly lower. I feel like this was like a 7.5 out of 10 sledgehammers with gore at the tip. Like it's really well shot. The story has some interesting things, but I think I do prefer Fury Road over this. And like I said, I wasn't a huge fan of the first couple of Mad Max movies, but I feel like these newer ones have done a great job conveying that world. And I like that George Miller took some time to make this one. This came out 8 years after Fury Road, so it wasn't like a rush job, like with the Thing prequel, like we mentioned earlier. So,
and saying that, like, this came out X amount of years after the last film, I'm like, I just feel really old now.
No, yeah, me too. All right, so I guess that'll do it. Thanks for joining me, Mr. Multiverse. Where can people follow you online?
They can find me on Mr. Multiverse on YouTube. I have a Patreon as well. Of the same name. I also have 2 short stories written called Duel of the Monsters. Go check those books out if you want to watch cryptids kick shit out of each other. And yeah, there you go.
Nice. And I'll include my plugs in the edit, like I usually do.
All right, so regarding the backrooms thing that Mr. Multiverse referenced, I looked it up. It is sort of an internet meme, and I do recall seeing mention of that in this group called a group where we all pretend to work at the same office or in the same office, whichever it is. So I'll link that in the show notes, explanation, I guess. And as far as stealth prequels go, there was another one I remembered after the fact, which I won't say what it is in case people want to be surprised, but it is something that's been talked about on the show before. But anyway, as far as my plugs, at Steven Shinder on Instagram and Twitter, and I guess Threads, although it kind of looks like Threads is dying, or at least it feels that way just a couple weeks in. The so many corporate accounts or verified accounts in the feed. It's a piece of work. So also Steven Shinder Storytelling on Facebook. Go stevenshinder.com. The website still needs to be updated. That's in the works though. Go to you can find my book Lemons of Mike Rain on Amazon, and the next one should be out sometime soon. So what else do I mention here? I'm on Goodreads, Letterboxd, if you want to see my reviews on some movies in text form. I actually, on Goodreads, reviewed Star Wars Inquisitor Rise of the Red Blade. I was really glued to it, and for half of it, it felt like it was going to be a 5-star review, but then ended up being a 4-star. I go into that in the review, sort of the reasoning behind it. And yeah, you can email delayedreplaypodcast@gmail.com for feedback and responses and whatnot. Might be read on the show. Let us know your thoughts on Chris Hemsworth. Who else should he play in anything? I don't know. Check out Yesshift, the podcast and vlog that I do with my dad. We recently did a 2nd anniversary show and did a collaboration with the Yes tribute band Total Mass Retain. Also reviewed Trevor Horn's autobiography, Adventures in Modern Recording. And there should be an interview with Dave Cousins of Straubs the day that this comes out. And I don't think the triple play finale that I was on is out yet still, but the question possible answer episode that I was on, covering everything everywhere all at once and some other multiverse stuff, is in fact up. So look for that in the show notes. And yeah. But yeah, past me will do the sign off as we cut back to that. And then you'll get a review of the Barbie movie. I'm not quite sure if there will be a review of something else that's new at the end of the next episode. Which, I mean, the next episode will be on the We're the Millers sequel titled We're Still the Millers, which came out in this universe, but not that other universe. So yeah, going from George Miller to We're Still the Millers as it happens. But yeah, we'll see. Okay, back to the sign off and then the Barbie review.
And thanks everyone for listening, and without further delay, have a good day.
Hi everyone, this is Steven from that other universe. Even though Barbie sounds like it's the same in both universes, it's me coming on here just so I have something to do. I guess you've heard enough of delayed replays, Steven. Just kidding, delayed replays, Steven. So, the Barbenheimer double feature. Now, Off the top of my head, as far as theatrical double features go, I remember doing that for Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness and Everything Everywhere All at Once back to back in that order. In that case, the Multiverse of Madness felt subpar to me, and then Everything Everywhere All at Once blew my mind, and I still love it. You can listen to the Question Possible Answer episode I guested on where we talked about it. I've even done a triple feature back in 2021, almost 2 years ago. Yeah, that double feature was a year ago, but the triple feature 2 years ago was Free Guy, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, and Candyman, the 2021 installment. And those were all incredible. Barbie, I guess, could be compared to Free Guy and I guess the Lego movie. It does touch on existential themes. Also has some meta jokes, which can be hit and miss. But anyway, as far as Barbenheimer goes, I didn't see Oppenheimer, but I was open to seeing Barbie. See what I did there? Oppenheimer it's 3 hours long and I don't have that much time, so I couldn't do the double feature. I'll see it probably when it hits max. But Barbie, I was open to that movie, seeing it with my friends. I was wearing my pink coat, my blue shirt, which has buttons on it and pink flowers, and matching blue jeans. And so I was very open to this movie. But yeah, I saw the Barbie movie with a couple friends. It's been less than a day, so thoughts are still kind of fresh, and I'm still kind of thinking it over. But this is basically a non-spoiler thoughts first. So the movie, I was looking forward to a fun movie. The marketing looked good. And then as I sat down and watched it all the way through, I wasn't laughing as much as I was expecting. And toward the end, I kind of felt that it was maybe a tad long. It's almost 2 hours long, but maybe it could have been an hour and a half. I'd be curious about whether an hour and a half may have felt better paced or if it would have felt too short. Who knows? But yeah, the movie, well cast, good performances. There are messages that needed to be said and need to be discussed. It's very anti-patriarchy, as I was not surprised. I kind of expected this. It looked like the movie was going to convey some sort of message like this, and I was all for it. I just wasn't sure if the movie conveyed it in quite the best way. Yes, the terrible things by the patriarchy and toxic masculinity need to be called out. And if anything, I like that this movie is sparking that discussion. I know some people aren't going to really enjoy how explicit, not in terms of cursing, but how explicit the discussion is. Like, it doesn't hold back. It's very upfront about what it's trying to do. But the movie also felt weird because, Mattel had to approve this movie, right? Like, when Warner Brothers was making it, and they convey the whole thing as, like, Barbie is a feminist icon, or so she thinks, and then there's this question of whether she is a feminist icon. Like, you get the reverse, what's it called? The reverse perspective of that. So it's kind of goes back and forth about what Barbie
really means, and it feels weird that Mattel is involved with it. It's almost like they're saying, "Yeah, we were problematic, but look at us now," or maybe like it's weird because Mattel itself is depicted in the movie as still being problematic in the present. Again, I don't know the whole history of Mattel and all the stuff, but uh, like the movie, it felt weird. It was like, how do I explain this? It's kind of like if that movie, The Founder, which goes into the, I guess you could say, unethical things done by Ray Kroc over the course of the history of McDonald's. It'd be like if McDonald's itself, um, if the founder was made in association with the restaurant, which I don't think it was, to my knowledge. A really eye-opening film, that movie, but also like there's sort of a line that's like anti-capitalist in the movie, and it's hard to take seriously because it's a Barbie movie, and there's the toy company, the film industry, like there is capitalism involved in all of that. And so like throughout this movie I felt very aware of how I get contradictory or ironic all of this felt. And again, like there was stuff that needed to be said, and the movie was trying to say it, but I don't know if the approach was done the best way. It felt kind of middle of the road. Um, Although, like among my friends, I saw this with a couple of friends. They really loved it from the sound of it, and I was the only one who thought it was just okay. And I was the only guy in the group, so I felt kind of bad that I'm the only guy in the group and I didn't enjoy it as much. This is a movie that I'm willing to give another shot. I had a lot on my mind, so going in, unrelated to the movie, so maybe that affected my mood while watching, perhaps. That very well could affect one's experience with a movie. So I'm willing to give it another shot, just not in the theater. I'm gonna wait until I can stream it on Max or wherever they put it on. I should be Max because it's Warner Brothers. So yeah, I have a few other thoughts, but I guess we'll get into well, I'll give my rating and then we'll go into spoiler territory. So right now, my rating, I'm feeling like it's a 6.5 out of 10. Um, what do I want my unit of measurement to be? Dream houses. It had some good ideas, but there were some things that felt really cringe to watch. And people who know me very well know that I'm not. This is so stupid to say, but like, I feel like people who don't know me very well might have raised an eyebrow about me being the only guy out of my friends that I went with who didn't like the movie. Uh, from what I can see, some other people that I know seem to have enjoyed the film like a lot. I don't think they're exaggerating, but yeah, I kind of wonder if maybe Barbie is one of the most overhyped movies. Although it doesn't seem to be having the Phantom Menace effect, but yeah, like Barbie and Oppenheimer, that whole Barbenheimer thing, I think that alone hyped both movies up a lot, so I kind of wonder if they're both. Well, for all I know, Oppenheimer can be
really good, and I just don't know it. I don't really have the energy to go to the theater to see Oppenheimer. Maybe the sound mixing is better than Tenet. Maybe it's a well-made story. Maybe it tells the history very well. I don't know. I'm going to watch it at some point, but again, maybe when it's on Max. So, yeah, right now I'm feeling it's a 6.5 for Barbie, but I'm open to giving it another shot sometime down the line. And yeah, I'm curious, this is opening weekend, and I'm really curious what more people are gonna say about the movie. There's a twist that I don't know if that everyone will like, but also there's like a line that might rub certain fans of a certain piece of media the wrong way. So I'll start with that line as I go into the spoiler territory right now. So the line basically is something along the lines of, I feel like I woke up from a dream where I was obsessed with Zack Snyder's cut of Justice League. And that kind of made me raise an eyebrow because it's weird that they reference, like, so in the moment, I was thinking, wait, is Warner Brothers basically saying or admitting that they don't like Zack Snyder, or is this just a reference to the edgelord Snyder Cut fans who sent threats, the toxic fans? And I consider myself a fan of Zack Snyder's Justice League, as you heard earlier in this Furiosa episode. I was someone who didn't care about it because beforehand, because I really didn't like Batman versus Superman, and then I was blown away by the Snyder Cut. Yeah, so I feel like the line is definitely gonna rub some people the wrong way. I can already see it happening as I looked up. There's an article on Collider where the director and co-writer Greta Gerwig said that she had a surface level. Well, she didn't say surface level, but something along those lines. Like she had somewhat of an awareness of the Snyderverse and its movement, I guess. I'll link the article in the show notes, but basically, it sounds like the joke wasn't super thought out. So maybe people are overthinking it. I certainly think I was overthinking it in the moment, and it's probably more likely poking fun at the toxic fans, because this Barbie movie is all about bringing up the problem of toxic masculinity. So, but it just felt, again, like it's a legit problem, but it felt weird that Zack Snyder's name and like his cut is mentioned at all in this Warner Brothers movie. Um, yeah, I don't know. Like there are some really weird things about this movie. It in a way, it kind of feels like a delayed replay universe movie, and that has some pros and cons to it, that statement. But I guess I should get into the twist. So, I'm not a super no I'm not like a Barbie super fan. I have a broad awareness of the lore, I guess you could call it, because of course Barbie and Ken were in Toy Story 3, so that's basically where some of my knowledge comes from. And obviously, like the commercials that would come up as I was growing up. But I was really surprised that Ken, like after he goes into the real world and finds out about the patriarchy, that the movie decided to make Ken and all the other Kens in Barbie Land very like dude bros. And I could see how that might rub people the wrong way that all of them become dude bros. Alan, Michael Cera's character, is like the one who doesn't get caught up in that, and when Barbie Land becomes Ken Land or whatever, Dude Bro Land, the Barbies themselves lose agency for a bit. They're kind of it's kind of like they're hypnotized, like once the patriarchy has taken over Barbie Land. And I was like really surprised that Ryan Gosling's Ken became the villain of this. I thought Will Ferrell, the Mattel guy, was going to be the only villain here, but making Ken the villain, and like I'm really wondering if like how Barbie fans who are like super diehard feel about this, because the impression I got from Ken, or is what he's supposed to be, is like an actual legit good guy, not like a nice guy with air quotes around it, where he feels entitled to have Barbie and be with Barbie. But I guess, I don't know, I'm like thinking back to Toy Story 3 now, and Ken was associated with the villain in that Lotso for a bit before Ken got redeemed toward the end. So there's definitely a precedent for this now that I think about it. But it was really surprising still that Ken goes like super toxic masculinity in this. And at the end, after Barbie Land has been won back, Ken is forgiven by Barbie, and I was legit surprised that she forgave. She does point out the problems that he has, like being entitled and whatnot, and he sees his problems as well. And I was kind of going back and forth on whether this act of forgiveness should have happened, or maybe whether it was believable. Like, I'm not sure that this would have happened in this situation. But again, it's also Barbie Land. And I know that in Barbie Land things are exaggerated, so maybe people can use that as a defense for why the dude bros thing, like every Ken becoming a dude bro, makes a lot of sense. But I don't know, even if the reasoning is sound, and again, I'm still thinking this movie over, and like even if it's written well, and even if the intentions are good, just as a movie, like watching it from start to finish, I didn't feel as entertained as I was feeling or hoping to feel. And that, I know people say you shouldn't have expectations before going into movies, and you know what, that's stupid. Like, of course people are going to have at least a little bit of expectations, and for this movie I didn't have a lot of expectations on what the plot would be. I had maybe like surface level basic expectations, and I had a feeling that the movie would point out some of the problems in our world, as it should. But the overall execution and just how it felt watching the movie, like it's definitely resonating with people, but I just wasn't having as much fun. And I feel like I've pretty much exhausted everything that I've needed to say about this. I'm not against this film. I don't think it's garbage. I'm not one of those people. I think it has some interesting things. Just how it, like the overall whole of it, just didn't quite click with me as a movie. And again, I'm gonna give it another shot sometime later down the line and see if things are different. I've had more time to think about it. My state of mind will be different, and we'll see how that is. Whether I talk about that on the show is anyone's guess, because who knows when
that'll be. If anything, maybe like a little tangent at some point if I can remember. But yeah, like I do want to revisit this at some point, just not in the theater. So yeah, I guess that'll do it. Again, 6.5 out of 10 right now, but I'm open to the rating perhaps changing in the future. We'll see how it comes across on a later viewing. So hopefully you're still listening, and I know at times it sounded like I was being apologetic in reviewing this movie, but hey, I'm open to hearing you all out. And, for all I know, this movie, it could be the best written movie ever. The dialogue and the story, but the way it's presented, like, could still maybe not click with me. Like, and that's happened with some movies. There are some movies that are said to be like the best movies ever, and then I watch them and they're just not sticking with me, and I'm feeling antsy and kind of want to do something else. That happens. And if, yeah, like this Barbie movie was, it was an interesting experience. It makes me reflect a bit, like, what did I like, what did I not like? I guess you could say that about any movie. But yeah, I think this movie was necessary, definitely to spark some discussion, whether people like it more or like it less. So, very curious to see what the discussion ends up being as people talk about it more and more on the internet and in real life, I guess. So that's it for now. Come back in 2 weeks for the next delayed replay episode. We'll see if I give a review at the end of that one. I know Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem is coming out. And then Blue Beetle, I think sometime later in the month, in August. And I actually made a joke. I was like, Malibu Bar Beetle. So do with that what you will, Photoshop users. So yeah, we'll see what the next review at the end of another episode ends up being. So without further delay, have a good day.